Hey everybody. I'm Ashley, the producer and creator and hostess of the Sharp End podcast. And I wanted to get on here to introduce myself. It's August 2024, and I started this podcast in November of 2015, which is a long time ago. It's like, what was that, 8 or 9 years ago? I'm dating myself. But a lot of you have listened the whole span. So I created the show at the very beginning. So thank you all so much for being such loyal listeners to the podcast. And for those of you who have just started listening, thanks and welcome. I hope that you enjoy some of my earlier stuff when I was recording in a bus next to my wood stove. You could hear the crackling in some of those earlier episodes of the fire, to more of the middle ones where I was living out of a van pirating Wi-Fi from random parking lots like McDonald's and Walmart. And there's been a whole arc of audio quality, some of which have been pretty awful. And so sorry about that. I'm definitely not an audio engineer. I'm just one person who really wants to get these stories out into the world to minimize future outdoor accidents. That's the whole point of my show. And while I am getting better at producing the podcast and editing and, you know, um, fixing the audio quality of the show, I'm definitely not perfect. So thanks for sticking with me. I wanted to introduce myself again and tell you a little bit about me and who I am. I took some notes. So I was born and raised in Alaska. I'm 37 years old. Um, I've done a lot of traveling all over the world in my years. I went to military school for high school because I didn't really like standard high school. Didn't really work for me. I was really nerdy and I just didn't it just didn't really work for my brain. So I just didn't re-register for my junior year of high school, and I went to military school, and I graduated a year and a half early with my diploma. So that was great. Then I got a 4-year scholarship to Sheldon Jackson College, which is a tiny little Presbyterian college on Baranof Island, in Southeast Alaska, in a little tiny town called Sitka. And so I moved there when I was just a little older than 16, and I started going to college when I was 17 years old, on a 4-year scholarship that I got from the military school that I had went to. My junior year of college, they actually shut down because they went bankrupt. And so they moved me and the 11 other seniors at Sheldon Jackson College to different colleges throughout the state of Alaska that would match sort of our degrees. And they moved me to Juneau, Alaska, to finish at University of Alaska Southeast Juneau campus because I was majoring in outdoor leadership. Yeah, I always I heard about Outward Bound from from one of my professors at SJ, and he was so inspiring. He still inspires me to this day. His name is Mike Kaplan. So Mike, if you're listening to this, thank you so much for changing my life. But yeah, Mike told me all about Outward Bound and the values that Outward Bounders live by and teach, and so that really resonated with who I am. So I was like, I'm gonna go work for Outward Bound, but I was a little bit too young to work for OB when I had just graduated college. So I ended up doing a year of AmeriCorps until I turned 21. And then when I turned 21, Outward Bound let me do their internship program one summer out of Leadville, Colorado. So I moved to Leadville, Colorado for the summer, and that was amazing. Leadville is at 10,200 feet. It's such a cool town. I was so grateful to be there. Yeah, and I did that, and then that kind of kicked off my career with Outward Bound, and so I worked for that school for 9 years. I did all kinds of things at that school. I started as an intern, then was an assistant instructor, then a lead instructor, then a course director, and then eventually, I really, really, really wanted to instruct mountaineering courses in Alaska, which is where I was born and raised. That's where my heart is. So I wrote this proposal and submitted to OB. And I said, please, I really want to reopen the Alaska school. And they let me. So we got in a big old truck and towed a bunch of gear in this trailer, and we drove to Alaska, and we ran the Outward Bound Alaska for 4 summers, which was out of Seward, which was really, really, really special because it was literally a dream come true. But after that 4th year, they shut me down. They shut the school down in Alaska. So then I ended up working for Knowles in Alaska as an operations manager there. But that was during COVID, and they weren't operating any courses out of the base camp that summer. So it was actually a really challenging summer to work there for me. So I resigned after a year. Let's see what else. Let's see. Then after that, I started working for the State of Alaska Emergency Operations Center, allocating all of their PPE and COVID testing supplies throughout the entire state, which was a very interesting job. I did that for about 9 months, and then I just I'm not really a desk person, so I also resigned that job too. Then I got my EMT. And so then that kind of led me, like my outdoor education background and my risk assessment and management background with OB, Outward Bound, and then my EMT combined led me down this path of basically being safety for these remote wilderness survival TV shows. And I did that for 6 years, and that was super fun. I went to Iceland, Louisiana. I love Louisiana. I went to New Mexico, all over the state of Alaska, shooting different TV shows, and that was really fun and pretty lucrative. All of that I did without ever paying rent. I just would bounce around from contract job to contract job, and then I would work these contract jobs, and then when they would end, I would go climbing. I would get my van that was in the States, the lower 48, as you call them. And I would get my van and I would just go drive, and I would go to all these crags and just climb. That's like what I did. It was my life. And then I blew my knee out. So once I blew my knee out, it kind of like really changed a lot for me, mentally and emotionally. I had to like kind of reinvent who I am and how I identify myself as. When I look in the mirror, I was like no longer this mountain woman, because I couldn't play hard in the mountains anymore. So it was really kind of devastating, how it just changed how I recreate, right? So that's been a big struggle in my life the last 5 years with just this ongoing knee injury. Well, I had my third knee surgery 2 months ago, and after that third surgery, I'm now able to fully extend my knee and lock my knee and flex my quad, which I haven't been able to do for 2.5 years. And after my second surgery, I thought that was just the way like life was going to be for me. I thought it was just how my knee healed, and that's just my new normal, but that's not the case. I actually had all this bone growing underneath my kneecap, which didn't allow my knee to fully extend the way it should. And that third doctor saw that when he went in to repair my meniscus for the third time. The second surgery, I got ACL repair, or new ACL, lateral tendon, and meniscus repair. The third surgery, it was just meniscus, but he saw all this extra bone that he scraped out. And then when I got out of surgery, I was like, oh my gosh, I can stand up tall. So that was a game changer. So I'm getting a lot more strong. I'm definitely mentally much more healthier and happier now that I'm able to hike and jog. And so it's been really sweet. Oh yeah, I'm deaf in my right ear. Completely deaf in this ear. So I don't even know why I wear these headphones, but I'm completely deaf in my right ear, and that was not always the case. When I was in my mid-20s, I went to bed normal, and then I woke up the next day completely deaf in my right ear. And so I went to all these different doctors, and they're like, yeah, we don't know what's wrong with you. And one doctor finally said, yeah, we think you have sudden sensory neural hearing loss, which basically is fancy for saying the nerves in your ear just died. You probably never hear it out of that ear again, but good luck. So that's probably why the audio has not been super consistent, because I can't hear out of this ear. So I don't know when the levels are equal, which is why I finally hired an audio engineer to help me. And he is super amazing. His name is Evan. He does the Fernline podcast, which is actually my favorite podcast. So if you don't know what that podcast is, definitely tune into the Fernline podcast. And Evan's been really great. He's been helping me fix the audio problem. So thanks, Evan. What else about me? Oh, I'm one of 4 siblings. I love my siblings very much. They're all different and hilarious. I love to split board, and I have 2 snow machines or snowmobiles, and love to get outside and access really remote parts of the Alaska wilderness via snowmobile and go split boarding from there. I no longer live in a bus. Now I have a house in Anchorage, Alaska, and it's very small and a very quaint little ranch style home. Um, and I've been living here for 3 years, and I'm really grateful that I caught the market right when I did. Yeah, that's yeah. And I started this podcast, like I said, in November of 2015. I came up with this idea because there's just so many accidents, and I love reading the books, Accidents in North American Climbing. I think I have one here. I have a couple of them here. Yeah, this book right here. I love reading these books. They are amazing. I learned so much from them, and I was like, man, these stories should be podcasts. And I told my partner that, and he's like, yeah, that's a good idea. And then the next day I said, you know what? I want to make this a podcast. So I did. And I had no idea what I was doing. But on this like arc of learning, I taught myself how to do podcasts and produce podcasts. And here I am 9 years later, still producing the show. So yeah, thank you. I just really want to minimize future outdoor accidents. That's the whole point. By way of storytelling, getting real people on, sharing real stories, and learning from what they experienced to minimize accidents are happening in the future. That's the whole point of the show. So that's why I'm here. That's why I continue to do the podcast. I've never missed a deadline date. Of course, the deadlines are my own deadlines, but I produce an episode a month. Sometimes I do 2 episodes a month. I'll try and do more now that I don't have a job. But yeah, they go live every first of the month. So every first, tune in to a new episode of The Sharp End. Thank you to all of my Patreon supporters who have been supporting on Patreon. I couldn't do it without you guys. Honestly, it takes a lot of time, and obviously time is money, and I couldn't do it without your support. So thank you so much for those that have been supporting on Patreon. If you don't know what Patreon is, it's really easy to just sign up. You could even just sign up for $1 a month or $5 a month, and that gets you all kinds of really great content. I do bonus mini episodes bi-weekly, and so those episodes are about 5 to 10 minutes each, and so there's lots of lessons that come with those too, and there's different tiers on Patreon that you can support the show with, so please consider donating on Patreon to help me continue the show. And I also started a YouTube channel, and there'll be a lot more content on the YouTube channel coming up. More educational stuff as well. So for instance, my next episode is about a gentleman who, fell on his head while climbing. And so he got a traumatic brain injury. And so when we talk about TBIs on that episode, I feel like we don't have enough time to really go into the meat of what a TBI is, how to treat it, like how to recognize it and how to treat it. So, my bonus content will be, middle of the month production, talking all about TBIs, how to recognize it, how to treat it, things like that from a professional. So that's the kind of stuff that you can find on my YouTube channel. And that's the kind of stuff that you can also find on my Patreon. So anyway, that's me. I'm Ashley. Thanks so much for listening to my podcast. Please continue to listen, and please spread the word. Okay, bye.